Hey there gamers, DreamcastGuy here, and this is Does It Suck? The show where we take a deep dive look at a new game and see what's good or bad about it. Now, I just spent the last couple hours playing the Oblivion remake, and it is insane. I have to just ramble about it because I'm a big old school fan of Oblivion, all the Elder Scrolls in fact, everything from Morrowind to Daggerfall to Arena, and of course I bought like 25 versions of Skyrim, but that's part of why I have been incredibly curious about, well, the Oblivion remake ever since it initially got leaked, ever since we even knew it existed, because this is a project that I feel like could have gone terribly wrong. When this originally came out back in 2006, it was mind-blowing. It was actually just insane. So bringing it back, updating the visuals, changing the combat, improving the lighting and the audio, they're technically calling it Oblivion Remastered. I consider this to be an entirely new game. And what's wild is this is on Game Pass. You can play it on PC. You can play it on Xbox. It's also on PlayStation 5. I decided to play it on PC simply because I wanted to use my original Xbox 360 controller. But let me break down what's new, what's different, and what is, in my opinion, slightly worse. But let's talk. Hi, hope you're having a great day. If you could please give this video a like and subscribe if you haven't already. Now, first and foremost, let's talk about the elephant in the room, which is obviously the completely redone visuals. Now, this is reconstructed brick by brick, pixel by pixel, polygon by polygon to be now running in the Unreal Engine 5 engine, but on top of the original Oblivion engine, meaning that in a lot of ways, it still feels like the original game, which was part of my concern, is that sometimes a remake or even a really fancy remaster, you kind of change the speed, the tone, the impact of it. Whereas now, across the board, it looks insane. They redid the animations of every face, every line of dialogue. It looks nuts. The developers are even bragging about the fact that one of the things that looked a little bit funky in the original version of the game at times was the lighting engine, because this was an Xbox 360 launch game. It pretty much came out right after the Xbox 360. And when it came out, that was still when the developers were kind of trying to figure out how to make shadows fall, how to make certain people's faces work when they're walking from one environment to another and stuff like that. So they've managed to completely rebuild. Even the lighting engine looks a million times better. But let me talk about my biggest fear. When we first heard about the Oblivion remake, my biggest fear was that they were going to re-record the original goofy dialogue. The voice acting in the original version of Oblivion was so ridiculous, but that's part of the fun of it. I feel like part of the reason people very much obsess about the older Elder Scrolls games, a lot of people have been mad about the fact that, Bethesda keeps going, Skyrim, here's a new update, here's paid mods and stuff like that, but a lot of people have been missing the fact that each of the different Elder Scrolls games has such a different tone. The dustiness of Morrowind, the Dunmer stuff like that, going against different gods like Dagoth and stuff like that. But Oblivion, it always had this sort of theater-esque charm to it. Everybody shouts their lines. Stop right there, criminal scum. Or people just constantly being like, oh yes, I'm a vampire. They have kept all of the original dialogue. They have kept the original voice actors. They kept even stuff like, people don't know this, but Jean-Luc Picard, the guy, Patrick Stewart, is the guy who plays the king. Now, obviously, I have a giant Star Trek Jean-Luc Picard tattoo on my arm. They kept them in the game, but they also added in new dialogue. So certain times there were other races and stuff like elves, like obviously the Argonians and stuff like that. They're like the lizard people. They all just sounded like dudes. Back in the day, because the disk storage was so limited, they would actually repeat a lot of the dialogue where, it didn't matter what the storekeeper actually looked like. They would just have the storekeeper voice about 80% of the time. They have done it, and they've gone in and added in new lines, new dialogue, new voice actors. So a lot of the minor people sound a lot more realized. And that to me is incredibly cool. Now, they've also added a bunch of stuff to the gameplay, which I have to say, this is the stuff that makes it feel the most radically different over the original, and I think it's the part that I am still trying to adapt to even after a couple hours. They've added in a sprint system. The stamina system now works completely different. There's now, when you're leveling up, they've changed it to be a mix. The leveling system at times in the original version was a little bit clunky and unintuitive. It felt like it was trying to almost in a way mimic Dungeons and Dragons. Now, this is a mix of like the standard Skyrim leveling. I almost want to call it easy mode leveling, in that when you leveled up in Skyrim, very, very straightforward. Are you upgrading your stats? Are you crafting daggers? Then it upgrades your obvious skills, right? Now in the Oblivion remake, skills work much closer to that. It's much more easy to understand how you level up, which can be good. In the original version of the game, you could at times get completely story deadlocked, where you got to a certain point and you just weren't high enough level and you couldn't just sneak past something like that. You would actually have to leave, level up, and come back. And at times it did kind of suck. Now it feels much more natural how your character chooses to progress, and I like that. Now, they also updated all of the animations, meaning that how your characters fight. I actually kind of like the original clunky animations a lot, but these are obviously a lot better. And also, they added in reaction animations. Now, it's one of those things that I feel like people kind of forget, but back in the late original Xbox, late PlayStation 2, early PlayStation 3, early Xbox 360, it was before we really had impact. There used to be this thing where back in the day, you would shoot people and stuff, the characters didn't flinch, they didn't bleed, they would just stand there until they're on the ground dead. They have added an actual hit reaction for the first time, which you kind of take for granted. I feel like people playing Oblivion today, you're not even going to notice it because it's such an intuitive part of game design now. But now people, when you hit them, they can gore, they can flinch, they can scream. Now there's more than just being alive or being dead. And I think this was very, very, very much needed. But beyond anything else, I do gotta say that I think everything in this just feels so fresh. And that's probably the thing that did surprise me the most, because I have played hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of hours of Oblivion. And this new version of it remastered, it's all the original content, including all the downloadable content, meaning stuff like the Shimmering Isles, which is one of the best DLCs of all time. You're going to the God of Madness, which is so insanely funny. He screams about giving everybody cheese. There's also the Nine. This is the original game. Now, in case you do not realize how big this is the strategy guide for the original Oblivion. This is all the content that is now in Oblivion Remastered. You could beat a slutty elf to death with this bad boy. That's how much is going on in Oblivion Remastered. Honestly, the fact that they're just putting this, it's $50 if you're buying it. I decided to play it on Game Pass, but I'm tempted to buy this on PlayStation 5 just because I do like popping those trophies. I'm the kind of person where I've purchased Skyrim at this point like 10 separate times. I bought it, literally, I bought it on the original systems. I bought all the remasters. I bought all the remakes. I bought it on Xbox, PlayStation, Nintendo Switch, PC. I almost want to buy it again to kind of just show them, hey, do this for Morrowind. Morrowind is still my favorite, but I think in a way, and I'm dead serious about this after just the first couple hours, I think I'm having more fun with Oblivion Remastered than I've had with Skyrim in, 10 years. This is the classic, raw, quirky Bethesda charm that people actually miss. In a way, I feel like this is why Starfield failed, is that quirkiness that made it the Bethesda charm, this is what we wanted more of. And it's so good to have it back. But what do you guys think about the Oblivion Remaster? In fact, they posted the trailer. When it launched, they posted the trailer. It got 40,000 views in the first hour. I mean, this is one of the most viral trailers I've ever seen ever. But tell me your thoughts in the comments down below. If you could, please give this video a like and subscribe if you haven't already. And please keep dreaming. I wanted to quickly say I'm having surgery on my jaw on Thursday morning. So if there's not a video Thursday or Friday, I might need a couple days to lay in bed. But I gotta admit, in a way, I'm like 10 times more excited to do that surgery because now I have no choice but to just lay in bed and play the hell out of this. Thanks so much for watching that video. If you want to see something else, you can always click this link to see what I put up last, or, subscribe and see what's coming up next. Also, I promise that whatever I do, it'll try not to suck.